Some killers haunt your nightmares. Some leave behind stories too terrifying to forget. But the Green River Killer? He didn't just haunt one person, he haunted an entire city. And for over 2 decades, he remained a ghost, a shadow lurking in the darkness. His victims? Innocent women. His methods? Cold. Calculated. Merciless. This is the horrifying story of the Green River Killer. It started like any other summer. The warm air, the scent of pine in the breeze, but beneath the surface, something sinister was brewing. It began with a single body, then another. All dumped near the Green River, discarded like trash. July 15, 1982. The first known victims were discovered. 2 teenage girls, naked, lifeless, left to rot in the cold embrace of the river. Soon after, 3 more bodies turned up, each of them young, each of them vulnerable. Police knew they had a serial killer on their hands, but they had no idea how many more would follow. As the bodies piled up, so did the pressure on law enforcement. Women were disappearing at an alarming rate, all fitting a disturbing pattern, young, often from troubled backgrounds, most working as prostitutes along the infamous Pacific Highway South. He was methodical. He chose victims who wouldn't be missed right away. Girls who had run from home, girls who had nowhere else to turn. And once he had them, he strangled them. Sometimes with his bare hands, sometimes with ligatures, shoelaces, cords, even their own clothing. Whispers spread through the city. Who was he? What did he look like? The victims who survived, yes, there were survivors, described a man who seemed ordinary. Average height. Average build. Brown hair. A forgettable face. That was the scariest part. The Green River Killer wasn't a monster hiding in the shadows. He was someone you'd pass in the grocery store. Someone who smiled at his neighbors. Someone who could blend in anywhere. And that made him unstoppable. (1983, 1984). 1985, the killing didn't stop. Dozens of women vanished, their bodies turning up in woods, in ravines, in isolated dump sites far from the city. He was getting bolder. He started leaving multiple bodies in the same location, creating what police called clusters, grave sites filled with his victims. It was as if he was taunting them, daring them to stop him. And they couldn't. Then, a break. A name. Gary Ridgway. A truck painter. A married man. He had been arrested before for soliciting prostitutes. Witnesses even claimed they had seen some of the victims getting into his truck. Police brought him in. They questioned him. And then, they let him go. There wasn't enough evidence. DNA testing wasn't what it is today. So Ridgway walked free, and the killings continued. For years, the case went cold. The Green River Killer became a ghost once again. But then, science caught up with him. In 2001, forensic advances allowed investigators to retest old evidence. And this time, They had him. Gary Ridgway's DNA matched semen samples found on multiple victims. The Green River Killer had finally been unmasked. November 2003. Gary Ridgway stood before the court and admitted to killing 48 women. But detectives believed the real number could be over 90. 90 lives stolen. 90 families left shattered. He was the perfect predator. A man who appeared normal, a man who fooled everyone. He didn't kill out of passion. He killed because he wanted to. Because he could. Because, in his own words, he thought he was doing the world a favor.
I don't know how it happened with the first one. Maybe the first one I choked like this, but I don't remember how I did the very first one. I just don't.
Gary Ridgway will spend the rest of his life behind bars. But evil like his, it never truly disappears. It waits. It lurks. It hides behind ordinary faces. So remember, the next time a stranger smiles at you, asks for directions, offers you a ride, look closer. Because sometimes, the most dangerous monsters are the ones that look just like everyone else.